I first got into Star Citizen, I had really high hopes for it. It looked like quite an amazing game to invest time and money into, something to follow as it's being produced. But as I played more and more, I realized there was something I was really missing, and that's the sheer thrill of being part of something large, that specific thing being fleet combat. So why don't you join me today, as I discuss what fleet combat looks like right now, and what I hope for it to become. Without further ado then, let's get right into the video. I probably know what some of you are thinking. If you want large-scale fleet combat, play something like EVE Online instead. But you see, that's not quite the same. In games like EVE Online, yes, there is large-scale fleet combat, but you're controlling entire ships, sometimes squads of ships, all on your own. In Star Citizen, your role is almost exactly like what it would be in real life. A single man, on board a single ship, doing a single task. This adds a different effect, because there's something about this that makes you feel like you're part of a team. You're not just clicking buttons to direct ships towards the enemy, you're physically adjusting power, firing individual turrets, avoiding incoming ordnance, piloting one of dozens of support fighters. You see what I mean? It's just not quite the same as other games. Star Citizen has potential for this, but it's not where I want it to be. Not yet. Part of this is due to the small server size at the moment, only 50 people. This really limits what you can do with large-scale battles. One of the largest combat ships planned for player use, the Javelin, has the potential to take the entire server to crew by itself. Never mind a battle group, you won't even have an enemy, because the server simply won't allow it. The current largest combat ship, the Hammerhead, has a crew capping at around 8 or 9, which is probably the max amount of human players for a single ship right now, considering the server size. This allows for an entire fleet to be made, but even so there will only be 2 teams, 3 teams at most facing each other. And we all know wars involve more than just 3 countries. I realize Star Citizen can barely maintain their current server size, as we are all too familiar with error code 30,000, otherwise referred to as 30Ks. So once Star Citizen can get their act together on servers, maybe we can start taking steps in the right direction. Now, Star Citizen has made the fortunate decision to start rerunning events, one of which includes Xeno Threat. You see, Xeno Threat is really Star Citizen's first attempt at large-scale fleet combat. But the large majority of ships participating are NPCs, with maybe 3 to 4 player combat ships mixed in, and another 1 to 2 transport ships. Comparing this to the dozens of NPC ships present in the mix, doesn't really feel right. The way they design the event, players have to participate in one way, shape, or form, or else the main capital ship you're supposed to be protecting, an NPC-run Javelin-class destroyer, will get destroyed by the enemy capital ship, a slightly smaller but still very powerful Idris-class frigate. The way the event works is players escort cargo ships full of supplies to a space station where the Javelin is parked in to resupply it, or loot cargo wrecks to deliver it to the same place. Once the correct amount of supplies are delivered, the Javelin will be able to fight the Idris once it spawns, eventually destroying it. This event worked excellently because players accustomed to different playstyles are forced to work together. The FPS or cargo hauling tuned individuals loot wrecks, while the ship-to-ship combat people keep enemy NPCs at bay and escort NPC cargo ships to the space station. This is part of what I was wanting. Each person has a minor role to play, but when working together, you all accomplish something much larger. Outside of the event, you have 3 to 4, maybe a few more people working together, whether that be in separate ships or all in one. But it's mostly a free-for-all from there. The only real combat happening is bounty hunting, and that's usually 1 or 2 people who purposely work up a crime stat just so people can come after them. Because guess why they do this? They want PvP, they want that challenge of the entire server coming after them and lasting as long as possible. If they get taken out, they spend an hour or 2 in jail, then they can get back to doing the exact same thing they were doing. That's partially why I'm glad CIG revived Xeno Threat, because it gives those players craving combat a chance to shine. I took part in the event myself, and me being the trigger-happy teenager I am, I was very happy in the sheer destruction I got to cause among the enemy ranks. I had 3 gunners in my Hammerhead, and we went out to protect other players, attempting but ultimately failing to escort NPC cargo ships, and generally making it hard for enemy craft to do their job. Probably destroyed upwards of 30 ships in total. Even though I mentioned this already, I'm going to say it again. That feeling of being part of a team, working together towards a common goal, it makes me really excited. This right here is the core foundation of fleet combat. Imagine what I just described, but I'm simply a captain of my own ship, part of a much larger combat group, part of an even larger fleet for an organization. My hopes for Star Citizen is that it will eventually accomplish this, because that sheer thrill of that aspect I just discussed could improve the experience for lots of players. Classification of ships is also a dead giveaway for the current scale of combat. In other games, there are ships like battleships, dreadnoughts, supercapitals, large ships of the sort, with destroyers being very close to the bottom, and frigates being even lower, if existent at all. In Star Citizen, the largest combat ship in production, besides the Bengal, I'm not counting that, is the Javelin, classified as a destroyer, and the Idris, classified as a frigate. These two ships can easily take out any other ship in the game, yet the classifications given to them would be deemed weak by some people. They are, however, very powerful when you compare them to the standard fighter or gunship most people fly around. Now, if you've seen this chart, you can tell there are larger ships planned, like the Retribution and the Pegasus. These are only existent in lore though, and unless I'm missing something, little to no effort has been made to actually produce these. I do think that is a wise choice at this stage in development. Implementing something like this would not go smoothly and would serve no real purpose at the moment. My point being, Star Citizen is lacking the current ship infrastructure to really have an organized fleet. Fleets are usually headed by a large capital ship, but Star Citizen lacks any capital-sized combat ships at the moment. Unless you want your fleet to be commanded by a super yacht, which works surprisingly well as a carrier and can even haul ground attack craft, has a ton of hit points, and an arsenal of missiles, and 4 defense turrets, and maybe I'm really undervaluing the 890 Jump's military potential. Super yachts aside, I'm really not complaining. The game isn't ready for these large ships. All I'm saying is the lack of them is something playing into the lack of fleet combat. Now, from my understanding, player ships will be able to be partially or even fully crewed by AI sometime in the future, but considering the current state of AI, I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. After this implementation, however, this is when I believe Star Citizen will start to introduce larger capital ships. I referred to a ship called the Bengal a while back, but for those who don't know, it looks to be some sort of flagship, and I won't use the word carrier because typically carriers don't have a massive cannon on the bottom for ship-to-ship combat. But yes, it does have a large hangar bay, undoubtedly capable of housing entire squadrons of fighters. My point being though, it looks to be about twice as wide and about 2.5 times longer than the Javelin. With a crew of 50 in the Javelin, a much smaller ship, I couldn't imagine what the crew would be in a ship that size. I would guess upwards of 300. Naturally, you can't have this many real-life players operating a single ship. First of all, it would be very difficult to organize, but maybe this is because I'm used to playing with my immature friends who can't seem to follow orders. Second of all, the server required for that would be impossible considering CIG can barely keep 50 people in the server without it crashing every 5 minutes. In short, I can't really see organized fleet combat being a prominent thing until a lot later in the development stage when a much more advanced AI is available. One of the last things I can think of in regards to fleet combat is purpose. I'm probably sure plenty of the creative players could come up with some obscure way to get together a fleet with what we have, but there's simply no reason to, because factions don't serve much of a purpose right now. There's no physical game function that offers an incentive to team up with more than a few people at one time. When you think of a space movie, what are people usually fighting over? Planets, star systems, sometimes even the galaxy. If factions were able to control cities, conquer planets, and take over enemy-inhabited territory, well, that would be absolutely splendid. Once again, however, Star Citizen is lacking the tech for this, although a smaller scale and maybe even better version of this isn't too far away. Despite its realism, having a single faction rule over a major spaceport can be problematic. They could demand high landing fees, execute individuals associating with warring factions, or even bar off access from it as a whole. Of course, it would be up to players to overthrow a faction in power if they don't like the way things were going. This could be good if it were implemented properly, however, this could be an easily abused system, so one would have to be careful. This is why a second option, outposts or military base, would perhaps be better. Instead of controlling an entire planet, factions could fight over small bases. These bases could have the capacity to spawn/repair ships, provide a respawn point, maybe even provide retail such as weapon shops and dining options. This gives something for factions to fight over, but for people who don't want to participate in this, they can just steer clear of the area and not be bothered. We used to have something similar to this with Jumptown, but that was removed a while back. I'm sure we've all heard about Jumptown 2 coming in the future, although I don't know about when. This, combined with the amazing innovations regarding NPC outposts in 3.15, a location like this is likely to be just around the corner. Either of the two options I listed would be good options, and I would imagine plenty of people would have fun with them, although neither of these are really required. But if CIG doesn't implement a purpose for large fleets or organizations to work together, then not many people are going to do it. Now, before you interpret what I'm saying incorrectly, let me clarify something. I'm not saying we should change Star Citizen from what it is. Part of Star Citizen's beauty is the fact that you don't have to be part of some large guild in order to be successful. How do you think I got to be so familiar with the game, and had so much fun over the almost 2 years I've been playing? Do you think I have friends? Of course I don't. No, what I'm saying is that Star Citizen needs to allow these large-scale battles and cooperation to happen, so people like me can make friends. Star Citizen has an amazing community, and it needs to showcase that. The organization feature has already been implemented, but there lacks both the capacity and reason to initiate large-scale combat scenarios. So, CIG, if you happen to stumble across my video, just keep this in mind. I'm sure I'm not the only person who'd like to see this type of combat take place. Far from it, actually. Am I saying it has to happen now? Of course not. In fact, I think that'd be a terrible idea, considering all the things I said need to be ready before it can really work properly. Just don't completely neglect it, because I feel like it's a really crucial feature that every space combat game needs. Well everyone, I'm afraid our time has come to an end. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button for future content. I haven't posted a Star Citizen video in quite a long time, because frankly it's hard to come up with ideas. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time, in the verse.